بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين محمد بن عبد الله وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. As we continue today on the 16th hadith, we have the hadith that reads عن مصعب بن سعد قال دخل عبد الله بن عمر رضي الله تعالى عنهما على ابن عامر يعوده وهو مريض فقال ألا تدعو الله لي يا ابن عمر. The hadith begins that Abdullah ibn Umar, may Allah be pleased with him and his father, that he went to visit Ibn Amir, who at the time was basically the governor of Basra, which is in Kufa, in Iraq, pardon me, and he was sick. So Abdullah ibn Umar went to visit him while he was sick, and when he entered upon Ibn Amir, he asked Ibn Umar, saying to him, and actually Allah, in the sense of the Arabic, that you're inviting and you're hoping, you're encouraging, and almost in a sense really you're requesting a certain thing, and that is he asked and requested from Ibn Umar to make dua to Allah on his behalf. أَلَا تَدْعُ اللَّهَ لِي يَا ابْنَ عُمَرَ. Will you not please make dua to Allah on my behalf, O son of Umar? And so Abdullah radiallahu ta'ala anhuma, he said, إِنِّي سَمِعْتُ رَسُولَ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ يَقُولُ. He says, I certainly heard Allah's messenger say, لا تقبل صلاة بغير طهور أو بغير طهور ولا صدقة من غلول. He said, radiallahu ta'ala anhu, that the Prophet ﷺ said that salah is not accepted if there's not purification, the first thing. Then the second thing that he said is, nor charity that is from ghulul. And we'll talk about that. But the first thing that he mentions is a condition that is essential for our salah, and that is purification, purity. And with regards to the tuhur, if it's mentioned with the dhamma, tuhur, the scholars of Arabic language say that it's referring to the act itself, purification. That if it's mentioned with the fatha, tahur, it's referring to the actual water or substance that's being used in the process. So, min ghayri tuhur, meaning that if a person does not do what is necessary to wash and cleanse themselves so that ritually and spiritually and physically that they are clean and ready to be able to worship, to make the salah, that their salah does not count. So for example, if a person has broken their wudu by any of the different means of, for example, passing gas or using the toilet for any of number 1 or 2, that if they want to offer salah, that they must perform wudu before they're able to do this. Now in the case of a person who has the greater ritual impurity, for example, a woman who has just finished her menses, or for example, a husband and wife who may have had intimacy, then for them, tahur means that they have to have the greater purification, which is the physical bathing from head to toe that completely and thoroughly washes the body. Then they are able to offer the salah. So the purification is what's considered shartu sihha, that it is a condition that is essential in order for the prayer itself to even be performed, for it to be accepted, that this is an external factor that must be met before anything of the prayer itself can be performed, such that it would be accepted. And so scholars say that this is, there's ijma', that there's consensus from the scholars of old on through till new with regards to the salah, whether it's fard or that it's nafil, that a person is in a state of tahara, that they are in a state of purity and of purification before they can do this. There has been some difference with regards to some of the other forms with regards to Salat al-Janazah. Some of the ulama, very few, said that it is not necessary. However, the majority of the scholars say that it's necessary even for Salat al-Janazah, and they went on to say that anything of Salah, where some have gone to the point where they say that Imam Nawawi rahimahullah, he narrates that they declare it to be ijma', a consensus, that whether it's regarding anything of fard or nafil, or even with regards to sujood al-tilawa, or even sujood al-shukr. Sujood al-tilawa, that if a person is reciting the different ayat within the Quran that command for prostration, that you also need to have a state of tahara, of purity, to make this prostration, as well as for sujood al-shukr, to prostrate out of gratefulness and thankfulness to Allah. Even in that state, you would need to be in a state of purity, and Allah knows best. But the second thing that the messenger stated was, وَلَا صَدَقَةٌ مِّنْ غُلُولٍ, nor can charity be given if there is ghulul. And what is al-ghulul? The scholars state that this is referring to the things, the war spoils, stealing from them. So whatever the war spoils may be, anything that is stolen from that particular category, it's referred to as ghulul. And so how do we understand this? Basically, the ulama say that Ibn Amir, who was the governor of that time within Basra, at that area and location and time, that he himself being the leader, he himself, not that he necessarily had to have stolen from anything of whatever there were of war spoils, but what was intended by it, especially in the way that Ibn Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhuma used it, is to say that being the governor, his wealth cannot be 100% clearly halal. That there has to have been something of where he has perhaps made something, or been given something, or have taken something, that there's at least, if anything, if it's not clearly haram, but that there is at least, at minimum, some doubtfulness, some iffiness to something of that wealth, and therefore, the sadaqah that is given from that source, which is in and of itself doubtful, that a person should be cautious and should be careful because it's not accepted. The sadaqah, anything of charity that is given, it must come from a halal source. It must be halal in its earning, and it must be halal in and of its specific self. And so with regards to the understanding of this, Imam Nawawi rahimahullah says that, and he's quoting many of the other scholars, that Ibn Umar is not saying that it is prohibited for him to make dua for this person because he is a leader, or secondly because perhaps maybe he may have faults and mistakes being a leader, because there's consensus with regards to the scholars of making dua for those of the leaders who have faults and have clear mistakes, that we would make dua for them and should make dua for them, that Allah guide them and things of that sort. But what they're saying is that Ibn Umar is using this as a tactic to basically scold the leader, and to at the same time basically to teach him to be mindful of Allah and to be cautious and careful, because not only is the issue of salah something that's important, but the analogy that's being given between, just like the salah, which is so essential with regards to our 5 pillars of Islam, and that in order for it to be accepted and to truly receive the reward and blessings of it from Allah, the charity aspect, which is also essential, whether we're talking about zakah or charity and the more general comprehensive sense, that in order for that to also be accepted by Allah and the reward of it to be received, the person must make sure that they're earning it from a halal, from a completely, clearly acceptable means, and that the source of it is also something that is acceptable, something that is permissible, and that Ibn Umar wants this person to learn that if he wants Allah to make dua, if he wants this person, this great Sahabi, to make dua to Allah, that it's something that he is not going to do, because he wants this person who is the leader to realize that being the leader, whatever he has of income, whatever he has of wealth, and whatever has been afforded to him because of that position, that he should fear Allah even more, that he should be even more cautious. And he's equating, Ibn Umar radiallahu ta'ala, he's equating dua with salah in this sense. Because salah in its original linguistic sense, it means supplication and prayer. And so he's saying, I'm not even going to make dua for you, because that was being requested. He is not going to make dua for him in the same way that the salah and everything else is to be done, and it is an act of ibadah, because he does not want to in any way do something that is going to allow this person to continue thinking that everything is fine and dandy, and that he does not have this great responsibility before Allah. Now this is something that's important for us, especially what we see in light of all that's happening in the Middle East these days, with the great frustration and the great demonstration by the population to show that they are displeased. This is something that we see at large now being done to show that enough is enough. Where do we stand on these types of things? The believers are those who they use the means that are available, that are permissible. And alhamdulillah, in Islam, there are teachings that are clear, and then there's room and leniency for different things, so long as the original message itself is supposed to be understood and implemented correctly. What about those who are outside of the Middle East? It means that for those of us who are within, for example, America or otherwise, that if we are in positions of leadership, that we need to be even more mindful of Allah with regards to the responsibility, with regards to the position, and what that ultimately means as a responsibility that we're going to be held accountable for. And if we want Allah Azza wa Jalla to accept from us what we're doing and to reward us for it, we have to be sure that not only are the intentions sincere, but that the actions are also in line with the intentions, and that is by following in the blessed example of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And only when the intention and the actions, the deeds, whether spoken or actions otherwise, when they are in harmony, when there's that equilibrium and balance, can we hope and express true hope with Allah that the acts and deeds are accepted and that we receive the rewards and blessings for them. And we ask Allah the Exalted that He truly help us to have the most sincerest of intentions, and that our speech and our actions are in conformity with those sincere intentions, as His blessed Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught, and that ultimately that we do keep each other in our prayers, especially with it being in private, so that this way it counts for more. And we ask Allah that He grant us the acceptance of our prayers for each other, and that they're sincere. Allahumma ameen. Wa sallallahu ala nabiyyina Muhammad. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.